We literally decided to sell everything. Within 30 days, we had left Australia. We ended up here on Syros.
Tell us a bit about those discussions of like, are we doing the right thing here?
For us personally, as an average family, we feel that here our dollar goes a lot further, and we feel that the quality of life is exponentially higher.
What it's really like as a former Aussie moving overseas.
Every single day on this island is like I'm living on a holiday. Every single day we seem to be literally living our best life here.
You're generating your income online and through trading. So how have you set up? Do you mind talking about it?
So
Janine Howard is an Australian entrepreneur and founder of Empress Empires, empowering women to achieve financial freedom through crypto trading and energetics.
After over a decade mentoring high-level women in business, she now focuses on wealth creation and guiding others toward alignment and abundance from her new home in Syros, Greece.
You can actually get a 0.5% tax on your business and personal income. Bali and Australia have a tax treaty, so you can earn in Bali as long as you report to the ATO in Australia.
What's up, guys? Welcome to this very different edition of the Sat Signal. Now, today's episode is not really about Bitcoin, but more about the life that can be lived if you decide to explore something other than the Australian dream. Today, I'm joined by Janine Howard, who joined us from her idyllic home in Syros in the Greek islands. Janine, like so many Australians, was following the plan. She had the idyllic house on the Sunshine Coast, the investment property, successful businesswoman, 2 kids, great husband. And one day they were walking down the street and turned to each other and went, "We're not happy. Our hearts are not alive." They found themselves in Europe, in Italy. They eventually found their way to Syros in the Greek islands. They pay almost no tax where they live today under a very cool structure, which we talk about in the podcast. And we talk about what it's like to actually leave Australia, how they make money now as digital nomads living in Greece. And Janine is not young. She's my age. She's 52, right? I'm 51. So this is somebody making these kinds of big changes, generating money online with kids in a foreign country and living a life that, according to ChatGPT, which recently told the world that if you want to live longer, forget optimizing your nutrition and less drinking and all that stuff. Optimize for a lower stress environment, optimize for higher community engagement. And that's exactly the life that Janine is living today in this beautiful island. We do talk about crypto and Bitcoin very briefly, but for the most part, this is a call to a better life, and I think you're going to like it. If you do, make sure you drop us a comment, a like, subscribe, and I hope this helps a few people because it certainly helped me. With that said, let's get on with the interview. Janine, welcome to the pod. How you doing?
I am really super awesome, Adam, and I love that we are talking from the other side of the world than Australia. I'm over here in Greece and you're in Cyprus. So yeah, good to be talking to you just across the sea so I could look out across my balcony at you.
You've got the Mediterranean glow, that is for sure. Why don't we start with like just telling us a little bit about where you are, because I've done some interviews recently. I had Matt Cameron on, who's a pretty high profile Australian Instagrammer these days. He's been all over social media. He's a very polarizing guy. And I just seem to be getting an ever increasing amount of interest from our listeners of moving overseas. And I think I'm excited to talk to you because you're a family person. You're very normal in terms of you're not like outlandish. Like Matt's got this massive polarizing personality. You're a mum, you got 2 kids, you moved with the kids and your hubby. But why don't we start by just locating where you are? You're in Syros. So just maybe tell us a little bit about where you are, and we'll talk about like what your life was like in Australia, why you decided to make the move, all those motivations, and what it's really like as a former Aussie moving overseas.
Yeah, well, we live on a Greek island. It's called Syros, and Syros is an island that is pretty much a local island. It doesn't actually attract a lot of tourists to this island. We literally can see Mykonos from our island. So many people have heard about Mykonos, and that's an island where at this time of year, it literally shuts down, right? So whereas Syros, it's actually the capital of the Cyclades. So there's everything you could need on this island. Like there's beautiful shopping, there's all of the infrastructure, there's a hospital on this island as well. And so we really chose it because of it being a year-round island, and also because of just it's such a safe island. It's a population of about 20,000 people. You could drive around the entire island in about 20 minutes or so. So we love it. There's a central town called Amopoli, and that's where we live. And yeah, we literally walked today from one end of the town all the way to the other, ran into friends, locals and expats alike. And yeah, we've created a very lovely life here on this island.
Now, for those of you who don't know anything about Janine, I know there's going to be people going, I want to see this island now while we're listening. They're going to multitask. Where can they follow you on Instagram if you do want to see this place? Because it is beautiful. And I've been following you and going, oh my God, like I need to see this place. So how do they follow you? Just in case people want to look it up.
Yeah, sure. So my Instagram is iam.Janine Howard, and I'm GENINE Howard. I am Janine Howard. So, I mean, I do post about this island. I do post about our life. And what's interesting with my Instagram is that when I lived in Australia, I kind of had to make up some things about, Instagram. I'm trying to find good content, and Australia is wonderful. It's beautiful. But literally every single day on this island is like I'm living on a holiday. So I was just swimming in the Aegean, just down at the swim platform. I was hiking on the island. Every single day we seem to be literally living our best life here.
Yeah, I've been following you and some of it, like just everyday life, that the apartments and homes that you sort of go into of friends or visit, and it's just incredible. There's this real artistic, authentic vibe to Syros.
Mm-hmm.
So let's just step back a bit. Well, let's just give them a quick picture. So you're married and you have 2 kids. Tell us a bit about the family structure, and like where were you in Australia before moving to Syros, and let's talk about like what your family and what drove you to a move.
Yeah, so we lived on the beautiful Sunshine Coast in Australia, and we'd lived there for 14 years. Lived in a fantastic street. We were at the end of a cul-de-sac. We lived on 2,000 square meters of property, had a Queenslander home, all of the things, chickens, dogs, everything. Had a very lovely life in Australia. However, I have always thought a little bit differently, and we've never sent our kids to school. So that was never a thing that I wanted to do, is send them to the normal public school route. We did it homeschooling, did a year in Montessori school. Even that was a bit too rigid for me. So we've pretty much gone rogue in unschooling our 2 children. Now, we could do that because I've always worked online. So for the past 12 years, I've personally been a business coach. So I was on Zoom every single day. My husband's a carpenter by trade and also an actor, but we're a pretty normal Australian family. And we have always had a dream of living overseas. And, it just was this dream of like, if we could spend 3 months in Italy, in a small town, visit the butcher and the baker each day and just have a small community of friends. That would be absolute magic for us. And so, a long story short, we actually got the opportunity in 2023 to live in Italy for 3 months in a small town, just out of Florence. And we loved it, absolutely loved it. We actually did our first stint overseas with a company called Boundless Life. People Google that too. Boundless Life is a company. It's great it's very much an American market, but for us Aussies, it was great because they gave us an apartment, schooling for the kids for 3 months, and an inbuilt community. So that was great. 2 days after getting back from Italy, we were walking down the street, again, just a beautiful suburban street on the Sunshine Coast. It's gorgeous, lovely, but we just wanted more out of life. And we had started feeling quite repressed by rules and taxes. My tax status was going to change with the ATO because I had my own business. You know, we could get into the tax details later, but that was going to change significantly. And I was like, I'm bloody done. I'm done with Australia. My husband was as well. And so we were like, why don't we just move overseas? You know, we have all the freedom in the world to, like, location independence to do that. And so we literally decided to sell everything. We went full radical. We took 30 days to get the house ready and put it on the market. It went to auction. We sold at auction. This is January the 3rd, 2024. Sold at auction, and within 30 days, we had left Australia with a suitcase and a backpack each. And that's literally all we own. And yeah, and then we just started our world travels. And again, long story short, but we ended up here on Syros.
And 2 kids at this point, right? They're 10 and 12 now. And so they would have been 8 and 9 or something, whatever.
Yeah.
8. Wow. And how did the kids take to this plan when you announced that?
Yeah. And look, this is one things that, you know, some families will tell themselves that they can't do the move because the kids have got school or the kids have got friends and they're rooted and grounded. I tell you what, one of the things that my husband and I were really adamant about is that it's our job as the parents to help our children feel safe and help our children feel like they have a home no matter where they are in the world, right? Because if they've got us, that's home. And so they didn't really want to go, right? Because they only knew what they knew. They loved having their friends down the street. And again, we just really said to them, this is something that you're going to look back on and say thank you. Maybe when you're 19, maybe for the next few years, you won't understand the I don't know, the massive opportunity that you've got. And look, to be honest, for the first few months, it was challenging, especially with my daughter. Like, she would often, you know, cry herself to sleep or, you know, say, Mama, I want to go back home to Australia. But now they are thriving. Like, I will literally say within a few months, we watched them not only grow dramatically tall, you know, my 12-year-old son is taller than me. We watched them grow as human beings. We watched them grow as, like, just being able to be in any situation and still have a good, steady self-worth, a good, steady knowing that they're safe and happy. And very much so, and especially here on the island, you know, they've made good friends, you know, whether it's people living here, whether it's other expats have moved to the island. And yeah, and I think that they've now really understood that our life is very different to what it was in Australia. And honestly, so much more free in all ways.
Yes. Isn't it true? Like, you do, like, when you get out of Australia, you like, not, I don't want this to be a podcast where we just dump on Australia, but you do realize how tucked in and clinical Australia is, and also how quite controlled it is. Whereas in Europe, you feel free. Well, certainly in parts of Europe, like in where you are, where I am in Cyprus, you feel pretty left alone. Southeast Asia, I feel the same thing, cruising around the back of a motorbike. I want to just back up though a little bit, Janine, and just talk about some of the less obvious things of moving. Like, first of all, you guys are, you know, you're not like outright rich people, right? Like, you're just normal Australians, you know, with your main house. I just want to dispel that, because sometimes people think, is this woman loaded with $100 million, or is she like a not normal sort of Australian? Would you classify yourself as sort of middle class to upper class Australian? Would you say that?
Yeah, for sure. In Australia, like, I've always made really good money in my business, to the point that my husband didn't have to work for the last 12 years. He just did acting and a bit of carpentry here and there. So we had enough. Like, it's funny, like, I made really good money, but it was only just enough in Australia.
To raise a family,
to raise a family. Honestly, by the time that we had an investment property, because that's what you do. We had our principal place of residence, because that's what you do. So we were mortgaged to the eyeballs. If we didn't have tenants in our investment property, then that was stretching us.
Right.
We had the 2 cars, that were both leased. We had, just the normal living. But I find here we feel so much richer, and that's not great grammar, but we feel so much richer and freer because we don't have a car. We don't need a car, right? So living here, you literally walk everywhere. And if you do want to go to the other side of the island, you'll actually grab a cab. Like I can get a taxi for €4 from here to the other side of town, €10 if I'm going to the other side of the island, right? Super cheap. So we don't have all of the costs of the vehicles or jumping in and out of the cars. We rent a beautiful apartment. There's many beautiful apartments. And look, we pay maybe 1,500 to €2,000 a month here on Syros in rent. That's actually the highest end, right? You can actually get apartments for €1,000, €650, depending on what level you want. So here,
for Aussies listening, €1,000, roughly $2,000, more or less.
Yeah. So, maybe $500 a week Australian. But what we're finding is that everything feels freer because the supermarket's just there and the grocer's just there and the butcher's just there and they're inexpensive and the food quality is far better than what we ever found in Australia, right? Far better. Tomatoes that are actually red. And so we, so that.
Go ahead. Sorry. Yep.
I was just going to say, it's almost like chalk and cheese, the 2 ways of living. None is better than the other, but for us personally, as an average family from Australia, we feel that here our dollar goes a lot further and we feel that the quality of life is exponentially higher.
I had dinner with a dear friend of mine here in Limassol, Cyprus last night, and he moved from Australia as well, not long after me. And we had a dinner at this new Japanese restaurant that's just opened. It's just beautiful in the old town. And he's 59. And he said, Adam, since I've moved to Cyprus, and he's Greek actually by nationality, but Aussie hardware, Greek hardware, Aussie software. And he said, I kind of feel like my blood pressure has just dropped because my money goes so much further here. And it translates to the people that I encounter on a day-to-day basis. Like you said, it's hard to explain, but in Australia, especially now post-COVID and all the inflation, you can sort of feel this stress that's creeping into middle-class Australia. People are hanging onto their steering wheels that bit tighter. They're more anxious. There's a bit more road rage around. And it's because people are under pressure because of the cost of living and housing, electricity, the checkout, the supermarket, the travel, the extra hours that we're having to work. And it translates all the way through the country. And then when you sort of step off that merry-go-round, my mum used to say, Adam, sometimes I wish the world had a stop button and I could just jump off for a minute, just let the world continue without me. I think when you opt out of that Western first world modern way of life and you opt for a Greek island, or I'm on essentially a Cypriot island, and where just the pace of life is just slowed down, your money goes a bit further. There's a real feeling of wellness and health, and studies are coming out now showing that the number one factor for longevity isn't optimizing your nutrition or any of that stuff. It's optimizing for lower stress. Have you found and experienced that? Do you guys talk about that between each other quite often?
Completely. We literally just had this conversation when we were at swimming today. So what is it? 3:00 in the afternoon. We went for a midday swim. And we went for a midday swim with friends. And so there's another Australian family that found me in a Facebook group. And so they came to Syros with their 2 girls who are 11 and 13. And They came over to see what Syros was all about. And so we've ended up being really good friends. And he said they used to live in Sydney. So he came down to the swim platform and we saw him and he's drinking a can of beer, sitting just in the sun there, right? Having a can of beer. We're laughing at him, go like, look at you living your best life. He goes, oh my God, like I would never, ever have done this in Sydney, ever.
No.
Right. And he goes, it's the middle of the day. I'm with my friends. We're diving into this, like the Aegean Sea is just incredible. Like the color of the water, stunning. Beautiful sunny day. It's in November. Like it's still warm water. We're still very swimmable. And all of us were standing around just going, like, seriously, how incredible is our life? This is a Monday. We're all just hanging around, having a little chat. One's drinking a beer, jumping
Yeah.
in the water. We've got nothing to do, nowhere to go, nowhere to be. I was like, well, I just have to go do a little podcast with Adam. But other than that, and we've all figured out that you actually don't need as much money as what you needed to, which means you don't need to be working as hard as what you used to in Australia. And so many of us here, we actually have pretty much semi-retired. So I still run my business. I do a little bit of marketing each morning for maybe half an hour. That's it. I do an hour call with my clients during the week. We don't have to work much, right? Whereas in Australia, we were constantly, say with me, my business, constantly looking to scale up, and I needed the next mentor and the next mentor to, like that drive here.
Yeah.
The nervous system just gets to reset, right?
Mm-hmm.
You start noticing the color of the sky, you start noticing the people, you start just wandering through the streets, having chats with friends, and maybe we'll stop for a coffee. Like everything about life here just slows down because the Greeks, I tell you what, they know how to live, right? They're hard workers as well, but they work, and then now all the shops are shut. They'll go home, they'll have a sleep, have a meal with their family, pop back out to the shops later on. They love their coffee culture. So weekends, they're just community, family, food, swim in the ocean, right? Like they know how to live. So we're very much taking on that Greek mentality, that Europe mentality of just really being present in the moment. Huge change.
I essentially live on the Greek side of Cyprus. For people who are not familiar with Cyprus, we've got the Greek side and the Turkish side, and I live in the Greek in the south. And again, just spending time with my friend Tommy, who's Greek, Australian, but Greek. We met when I got back. I flew in from from Dubai to here, and where I'm living. And, we walked together through the streets, and we were just looking at the architecture and the old buildings together. And we walked past the old boys playing backgammon at 10:30, 11 in the morning, having their third coffee for the day and smoking their cigarettes. And we just spent, I think, 3 hours together, and that rolled into lunch. Then we had lunch. He has a contract with a big software company, so he works a little bit in the morning, and then he's free for the day. And he's into his fitness. He's a triathlete. So that whole decision to sort of opt out, and I think for many Australians listening to this, what they don't realize is they've been competing at the highest level in the Money Olympics. Like they've been training with the at a super high level. When they opt out into a slower pace, we were joking. We're in different phases. Tommy and I is in a rebuild phase. We're quite different financially in terms of where we're at, but we're both sitting at the same cafe. We're both having the same sort of coffee. I'm living in a studio apartment that I rent here for $500 a week at the moment. He's living in the same thing just across the other side of Old Town. And although there's a big gap money-wise, we both ended in the same place, drinking the same coffee at the same time, both living in a very simple life. Neither of us own cars, and it just doesn't matter. Like all that matters is we've got time. So what I'd like to do is, before we, and I was going to share one more thing, just what you said there. When I walked over to his place yesterday, I was walking through all the little back streets, and I'm noticing the Greeks, they've got the big jars of olives, like big ones like this, lined up along the gutter, and they've got the old loofahs hanging in there, and you can go and you can buy sort of oil for your lawnmower, or you can buy olive oil, or you can buy a toothbrush all in one shop with one guy. It's just such a different way to live. But when you slow down, you get to really notice it. But I want to talk about some of the, just the realities of like extracting yourself from Australian life. Did you have like getting off the ladder anxiety You know what I mean by that? Like you guys are on the property ladder. You had the cul-de-sac, you had the 2,000 square meters of land, you probably have 50 seminars in your back pocket and all these books telling you buy land, not the apartments, get something in an area that's going to go up in value, all this stuff that's driven into us as Westerners about creating wealth. And you guys sold the dream to go to what, any consider an emerging economy, or isn't Greek broke and aren't the banks unstable? And did you have anxiety? Did you have friends telling you you're crazy? Like, tell us a bit about those discussions of like, shit, are we doing the right thing here?
Definitely, because the Australian dream is that you have the beautiful house with the white picket fence, which, by the way, I did have a white picket fence. We were so ingrained. Like, as I said before, we were growing our own vegetables. We had the chickens. We had the 2 dogs. We were doing everything that, since COVID, like, let's double down and, renovate the house and all the things, right? And the whole time I was thinking, bloody hell, I'm spending a lot of money just buying new cushions, right? Fixing the house constantly. My husband's out there mowing the lawn and trimming the hedges and all the things. And so for us, it looked absolutely perfect. Everything about us, we've smartly done our investments in property, keep them growing, don't ever sell your principal place, all of the things, right? And to be honest, property had screwed us up financially a few years ago. We'd done very well with property since our mid-20s, bought and sold and had equity and all the things. And then we did one bad investment. Some of you will know this area. We bought in Moranbah, like in the mining town. But by the time it got built, it was in the peak of it. We bought at the peak and then it dropped down completely. The market fell out. So we had this massive debt on this property, which was just like strangling us. And, rents were, I think we're getting $110 a week on rent on a $540,000 loan. So and it had been cross-collateralized with our principal place of residence, which apparently now the banks aren't allowed to do. So that had really like screwed us up financially a long time ago in property. So we were like, do you know what? It doesn't make sense for us to just sell everything and take a massive loss on this investment property. We don't care. We're like, that felt so constrictive for many, many years. So the second that we sold that investment property and then we sold our principal place of residence, we were cashed up. Like, honestly, we just had a big stack of cash that we're like, this actually feels like more freedom. What would we do now with this stack of cash if we didn't do it, the way everyone else tells us that we should be, like, that we're crazy? Don't sell your house, rent it out, all the things.
Never get back on the ladder.
Never get into the market ever again. And we went, well, maybe we don't want to. Maybe there's a different way. And so then I even closed down my business. So we left Australia. We went to, where did we go first? So we went to Syros first. We actually have also lived in Spain for a few months, came back to Syros. Bali is somewhere that we keep going back and forward from, and I'll talk about Bali and why that's relevant in a moment. But for us, having that money, I was like, what if actually I took a break from my business as well? So I actually closed down my business for several months to give myself a breather to go, how else would I create wealth if it wasn't the way that we were told in Australia? What else would I do with that money? Part of the money, obviously, we had a great time and did Boundless Life, a couple of cohorts and things. For me, then I was like, what if we used that money to make more money? So then my husband and I went and did I think it was an 8-week trading course in the stock market. And that was good. And he enjoys that. But I have always loved crypto. And so then I deep dived into crypto. And I was like, well, what if actually I put my money into crypto? So, bought Bitcoin and all the things. And then I was like, well, what if actually I learned to trade crypto? So we've both decided to stop doing things the way that we're doing it before, even though my business was amazing and made really great money, and create wealth in different ways that weren't about going and getting a mortgage, weren't about, getting into the property market and all the things. And for us, having our money work for us in crypto and in the stock market feels freer than it does than having to borrow to do, it's just, none of it made sense to me. And then I listen obviously a lot to your podcast, and a lot of like people like this in the, the Bitcoin industry and all of that. And everything now makes so much more sense to me. I'm like, we've been put in a little box so that we stay in our little box and do things the way that, society tells you to. So you actually are trapped. And so I guess we're one of those families.
Stay in debt. That's the way to get rich. Stay in debt.
Right.
Keep paying those property taxes. Keep, that's so strong in Australians that when you get liquid and you have this wealth that admittedly came to you through property, and this is not to say property is not a great way to get rich with leverage, but a lot of this happened for you around a similar time as me. Like, I think you're a similar age now. I'm 51. I think you're 52, did you say?
2, yeah.
So some lights came on, I think, for both of us around a similar time. So you got liquid. Before people freak out, like, because I can just imagine now the comments, people are going to go, oh my God, what an idiot. You sold your house and put it all into high-risk crypto. And this pod isn't about crypto, guys. I didn't know Janine was going to bring this up, right? But you're not playing with all of your money out of your house to trade crypto, right? Like, you're only still playing with a small percentage of it. No, I don't really go into the specifics, but just as a ballpark, how much money do you play with in crypto?
Let's say about 10% of what we've got, right? And so it's, it's not going to make or break us.
Can you make a living off that? Or pay your rent?
We should be able to soon, yes. Not just yet. I'm still,
learning,
dabbling a little bit, yeah. But yes, we should still. And to give more of a point to that, we still have a lot of risk management when it comes to our investments, and we are still at a space where we're like, if you lost it all, it's no big deal. We're not going to like cry in our sleep or anything. So, but we're at a space where we can give things a go. But in the crypto trading side of things, so I met a woman when we were in Spain, just April, May, June, and she's a normal family like us. They've got 3 kids. There's I think 3, 6, and 9. 3, 6, and 8, sorry. And she is a full-time crypto trader. She's been doing that for 3 years, bringing in their whole entire family's income through trading. He doesn't have to work, her husband. And for her, when I say full-time trading crypto, she works about 6 to 8 hours a week. So she's not day trading, etc. And I now employ her in my company to teach other women how to trade crypto to do what she does, because it's a great way, right? Like, if we don't want to do 9 to 5 anymore, it is a great way. And when you know what you're doing and you mitigate your risk and all of the things, it's actually quite a feasible way of bringing in income. So that's what I'm learning to master as well.
If you want to learn more about this, guys, follow Janine, and I'm sure you'll be able to learn some of it there. Let me just close this window because that sun is just dropping straight into my face. One sec. It's just like really bright coming down there, the late afternoon sun, just like boom.
The joys of the Greek afternoon sun.
Quality problem. So here you are, like you sell your house on the Sunshine Coast, you get liquid, you move to this idyllic island on the other side of the world. You're homeschooling the kids still.
Yeah.
And so your typical day now, when you get up in the morning, like, what does your typical day look like now?
Yeah, so I'm an early riser, so I love getting up early. I literally go up to my rooftop and watch the sunrise every morning, and I get my work done.
Your rooftop's amazing. Every time I see it on your Instagram, I'm like, oh, how good is that?
I know, right? It's like we're right on the water. It's crazy. Like just a little sidebar. My husband and I were walking back from the supermarket, and we're walking along the port, and we're going, how how do we live here? This
I
is
know.
nuts. This is so beautiful,
For like $500 a week. It's crazy.
right?
And you don't have
Crazy.
any of the, like, I got my body corporate bill for my apartment in Australia, which is not settled yet. I've sold it before I left to get it done in that last financial year on a long settlement. And admittedly, it's a fancy building and everything, but the body corporate was $21,000 for 4 months. It was a special levy or whatever that was included in it, some repairs that needed to be done. And I showed my mate here and I said, this is what I've got to pay. Like just Australian property, just the taxes and the costs and everything. Whereas I
Yeah.
become a renter now at age 50 and it's so good. Something breaks and I'm
So
like, oh,
good.
that sounds like a you problem. It's like, yes, I love this. Being a tenant's the best. So
Right?
yeah, Karen, so
Seriously.
you
So
it's
yeah,
beautiful rock star because you're $500 a week. Get up in the
yeah.
morning, you go down, you have your early, you watch sunrise with your coffee.
What is that? And the kids get to sleep in. So I'm very much about, yeah, they're 10 and 12 now. Their bodies are growing. I'm not about like dragging them out of bed. So they sleep in. Husband has a little sleep in. Couple of coffees, go for a walk. A whole bunch of us. There's a run club that started. So I didn't go running, but I was watching them from my deck. Um,
That counts.
That counts, doesn't it? Anyway, so then a normal day, I'll give you an example. So yesterday, friends texted and said, hey, we're going to go for a hike. Do you want to come? Yep, no problem. So we went off to the other side of the island, went hiking for 3 hours to a remote beach, went swimming, hiked back, went for couple of Coronas. We're like, we had a hike, let's have a couple of Coronas. 2 Coronas turned into, there's so many people in our community here. It's unbelievable. Like, anyway, ran into other people, ended up catching up with them. Our kids are going over to someone else's house and they're making pasta together. Like, that's a normal day. A normal day for us is being in community. When you were talking before about, what actually helps longevity, it's also proven like community
100%.
and laughter, right? And we have that in spades here. We've developed our own community. As I said, we did do Boundless Life, which is a company that's here on. So it's very much for, if you're first time leaving your country, it's a fantastic product. But for us, we don't really need it anymore. So, but we've grown our own community. And, with the local people who own the shops and everything. And so our every day feels like not even a holiday. Like we're not rushed. There's swimming, hiking, catch up at the square. Greeks are all about the platea. That's where everyone catches up in the afternoon and the evenings. Kids, roller skate around, or my daughter broke her arm the other day because she was skateboarding. It is what it is about being a kid. So yeah, every day is a mix of culture, natural environment, and just slow pace.
Last night I was lying in bed here I'm right in the middle of Old Town Limassol, and like 50 meters that way is the main shopping district. And I was lamenting my problems of like falling to sleep to the sound of Greek singers at 10:30 at night, full voice, waking up to the sound of church bells. And it's just a completely different reality. And again, it comes back to that thing of just being able to breathe. And like, you don't realize as an Australian how many costs creep into your life, especially if you're a little bit on the upper middle class. So you end up spending so much money on subscriptions and so much money on cars and car maintenance and very high school fees and like taxes that just seem to be part of your life everywhere you turn. And I was spending so much on health optimization, gym memberships, supplementations, tracking devices for how much I'm breathing and sleeping and moving. I don't give a shit about any of that stuff now. Like, I'll go in and maybe get my teeth cleaned twice a year, but just the basics. I don't have any subscriptions anymore to anything.
Yeah.
They were just all gone. I don't know where they went. My phone bill costs a third. My electricity bill is literally a third. I don't have any car bills at all because I don't own a car. My food, yeah, so it's just a very different life. And I want to talk about one of the biggest, like for me, I moved to Cyprus partly because of tax, right? But also because of all the reasons that you mentioned, like the vibe, the history. Like I can look out the window here and see buildings that are some of the oldest, the most continually occupied cities in the world are here in Cyprus. There's amazing history and things. But tax is another one. Like how has that been? How are you set up from that point of view as an Australian? You're a nomadic worker, so you're not generating your income in Greece. You're generating your income online and through trading. So how have you set up? Do you mind talking about it?
So we first moved from Australia to Bali and we thought we'd actually live in Bali full time. Now, when we got there, Bali, it's different. Like we've been there on and off for the last 20 years. So we thought, it's not quite right for us, but we wondered why it was that we'd gone there. Anyway, long story short with this, we found out that as an Australian, if we set up a PT PMA company in Indonesia, we can actually buy property there if we wanted to and actively, rent it out in Airbnb. So we thought originally that's what we were going to do. But for the first 2 years, you can actually get a 0.5% tax on your business and personal income. And so first 2 years and under, I think works at about 450,000 Australian a year.
So say that again. You can get how much?
So you are taxed at a rate of 0.5% for 2 years.
Yep.
Up to about 450,000 Australian.
Okay, in the PTMA.
In the PTPMA.
Yeah. Wow, that's amazing.
Right. And
so you set your company up in Bali and then you live in Syros and you drive the revenue through Bali.
Correct. Because Bali and Australia have a tax treaty, so you can earn in Bali as long as you report to the ATO in Australia each year. And so then we got a digital nomad visa to live in Greece. We got it by coming into Greece and applying from within Greece. A lot of people have tried to do it the other way around, like get it while you're in Australia. But honestly, getting an appointment with the Greek consulate is hard. It's like there's a wait list anyway. So we decided to come straight here to Greece from Bali. The day that we got here, we applied for our digital nomad visa. We applied online. We did it ourselves. It's not that complicated and took us a little bit longer because we were a bit slow on the paperwork. But if you had the correct paperwork, you could actually turn it around in just a few weeks. And that visa means that we're not obviously allowed to work here in Greece. We have to work online. And that gives us 2 years of a Greek residency. And so that's actually going to come up for us in April next year. And so if you reapply and are successful, you get another 3 years. What that means is that all our revenue is driven through Indonesia. For the moment, we'll outgrow it soon. That's fine. But for now, it's at 0.05% tax, right? Compared to what I was getting taxed like up to 40-something% in Australia on my revenue. We can live here in Greece easily. We can travel through the Schengen zone. So most of Europe we can get access to as well.
On the nomad visa?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay, so the cost of doing a Greek nomad visa, I imagine, is just a few $100s maybe, or a few thousand maybe?
Yeah, I think it was $1,000 for me and then, $750 or something like that. Don't quote me, for my husband. And yeah, so all up, I think with the translations and everything, it cost us about 3,000 Australian to go and get that.
Wow. and then you got the Bali company. So the money from your business goes into Bali, and then you can pull it out personally, and that's done.
Yeah.
Wow, amazing.
Yeah.
So you have a Balinese bank account that the money goes into, is that right?
Correct. Yes.
Okay, interesting. That's such a unique structure that I haven't heard of. And I suppose, I mean, one thing I get tons of questions about this because, and there's no one size fits all, right? Like you've got to find, a structure that works for you. First of all, you got to find a place that works for you, right? Like, because sometimes people, when they think about moving overseas and tax is sort of their reason for doing it, I always say, look, life is more than just tax and math. Like you've got to actually wake up in the morning and like enjoy where you live. So for me, I thought of Cyprus because probably for the same reasons you like where you are, they're very similar. Like we're literally a $20 flight apart, but it's that Mediterranean lifestyle, the crystal clear waters. There's no sharks, there's no tides, there's nothing's going to kill you. In Australia, if it's not the sharks, it's the tides, and if it's not the tides, it's the sun. Like it's kind of funny when you look back. Australia's a very dangerous place, but you got to find a place that sort of ticks so many of the boxes personally, and then you've got to think about the tax as well. And there's a unique blend. But it sounds like you've found a really, really good hack in that. So so for people listening, again, you can follow Janine on her Instagram, which is IAM for Mary Janine Howard, and that's Janine as you see it on screen here. But for our Spotify listeners, it's GENINE Howard. I'm sure you'd be happy to talk to anybody who wants to chat to you about any of this stuff.
Yeah.
But let's talk about so you've got this tax-free environment, right? Sorry, I was just to finish my thought there. I often say to people, the first step if you want to leave Australia is to get out of Australia. So if you ended up going to Syros and you ended up just doing what you're doing, like you set up a Bali company and moved to Syros, if you figure out, hey, it's not for me once I've done it, well, you can always set up a different structure. You might outgrow Bali and end up setting up a Panamanian structure, or you might set up in Cyprus, or whatever. I'm in Cyprus paying 12.5% at the company level and nothing on dividends, and I'm quite happy to pay 12.5%. I think that's reasonable. I'd rather pay 0.5, but I'm also okay at 12.5. But step one is getting out of the country, because getting out of the country in Australia is hard because the voices in your head are so strong. You live in the lucky country, Janine. And if you're fortunate enough to have a good marriage and 2 beautiful kids and the dream house on the Sunshine Coast, it's even harder to get out, right? Because you have the white picket fence, literally. You have the Instagram life. So it's really courageous and difficult to actually follow through with that little whisper that happens between couples when they go for their nightly walk or their morning walk, and they just look at each other and go, we're not happy, right? I had that exact same feeling. I had the dream, I had the fancy car and the beautiful apartment, and I just went, I hate saying these words, but I'm not happy. And it wasn't, and it's a hard thing to say. And now the further I've gone down this rabbit hole, the more I've realized I'm actually becoming less and less interested in that way of life. It's just fading in the rearview mirror for me. I have no compulsion to read non-fiction, personal growth books or business books, or I'm moving to a time in my life where I'd rather read a cooking book, or I'd rather read a book on the history of that interesting church down the end of the street. I'd rather know, you know what I mean? Like, just things change as you sort of get a little older. But I know I'm rambling a bit here, but I guess all I'm saying to those people who are listening to this and they're listening to Janine describe, if you've gone to her account, you've seen her rooftop and you see it and you hear this whisper in your heart that says, oh my God, like you can feel it in your chest. I need to experience that. Just give yourself some recognition that it is difficult to leave. And once you're out, you can then make the next decision. You don't need to know all the answers today. You can figure some of this out as you go. And you found you've met new people, like you guys have. Would you guys say that you've changed a lot as people? Like how do you, when you look back at Australia now, what do you think? But what are your observations now that you're out of it?
Yeah, I would say
what do you really talk about between each other?
Yeah, well, I would say that I have become very different person, because in Australia I was known as being, my identity was as a successful businesswoman.
Yeah.
So as a successful businesswoman, I did successful businesswomen things. So, I would,
I
well,
love
as you
this.
said,
Like,
I would like have the biggest coach I could find. I always hired American coaches because like they're I want to scale, I want $100 million and I want all the things, right? And so then I'd be doing the rituals of a successful businesswoman. I'd be going to the events that a successful businesswoman would go. I used to have every month my clothes delivered to my house, right? So I'd even have a subscription of clothing, right? So that I look like a successful businesswoman, and I would speak on stages and do all of the things and win awards and
post it all on Instagram. Yeah.
right? And closing down my business when I moved overseas, closing it down was the best thing I could have ever done, because I just don't give a hoot anymore about like what anyone's perception is of me. It's not a facade. I'm me. I'm a mum. My favorite thing in the world is just hanging out with my kids and going swimming, going to the beach. Don't have a label. It is what it is. Right. And it's so different. And so a couple of my girlfriends have come over from Australia, from the Sunshine Coast, and spent time. And they're like, oh my God, seriously, your life is chalk and cheese from what it used to be. People are going, and no judgment on that lifestyle. It's just not for me anymore. Like I hardly have any clothes. Whereas back on the Sunshine Coast, the girls who know me, like my wardrobe was full of 10,000 pairs of shoes and clothes. And I go to the gala events. You couldn't pay me anymore to do that. I have like 3 pairs of shoes, 1 pair of thongs. Like all of the things that defined me before just don't define me anymore.
Yeah, and how liberating is that? Like I'm exactly the same. Like I've got 3 suitcases that I travel with, and I've only got the 3rd one because I travel with podcast gear, that I have to have. But yeah, it's such a shift, and I became like an anti-shopper. I get the same thrill of letting stuff go that other people get from acquiring stuff in the West. I just feel better. I feel excited when I throw those 5 extra shirts in the bin or give it to Goodwill. I just give away so much stuff now. I'm getting lighter and lighter and lighter. And I don't know, I've got a fancy watch back in a storage facility in Australia. I don't have a watch. I don't have a car. And I just feel so much happier not to have those things, My greatest flex now is just time. I love looking, like on Thursday, we've booked me and Tommy and a friend here, the 3 of us have just booked a boat to go out on the Med for 4 hours. We're just going to go diving, just snorkeling around the rocks in Cyprus and then have an early dinner. And so overall, I mean, I guess, I know you've probably got nothing to do for the rest of the day, so I've got to hurry it up.
Might be rosé time soon.
No, but to keep it real, I mean, I just want the listener out there I'm so glad, Janine, that you came on, because a lot of people look at me and like, I've been through a lot personally. I'm now single, I'm on my own, and I don't have kids. And, I've been this high flyer business guy. That's how people who don't know me that well think of me. People who do know me that well know that I couldn't be further from that. But the objection to hearing my story is you don't have kids, you've got heaps of money, so therefore, it's all right for you, but it's not. But since I've moved, I've met so many families. Like on Wednesday night, we're recording this on a Monday. On Wednesday, I'm catching up with a guy called Theo from Melbourne, who moved to Cyprus with his 2 kids because his son had a chronic eye condition. And the doctor said, if you go to the Med, it will probably stop. And he said, are you serious? He said, yes, it's like this. He was taking steroids because he had really bad infections and inflammations. And they moved here and it immediately stopped. Anyway, for Wednesday night, we're going to watch the local soccer derby here. There's me and Tommy and Theo, ex-Aussie from Melbourne. And I've met so many Aussie families that have now relocated to the Med, to Greece, to the south of France, south of Italy, Portugal. And you realize that just so many families are now able to do it. But the first step is giving yourself permission and starting to follow people like Janine, who probably follows 5 other people and knows other families that have taken this adventure. Because, guys, I can tell you, like, Australia is a beautiful country and it is a fabulous place, but there is more to life than maths, mortgages, interest rates, and who's playing in the footy on the weekend. Right? There's a lot more to life. And I love your story, Janine, because you actually live it and you showcase it. What would you say to somebody who, I guess, is in those early stages of those feelings inside? They're living in Australia, maybe New Zealand. They've perhaps climbed the mountain of owning a property, maybe got 1 or 2 investment properties, but they're just not feeling the juice in life. Like, what would you say to that man or woman at this moment?
Yeah, I would say give yourself a little trial. Like, you don't have to be radical and do what we did and drop everything and, sell everything and go down to a suitcase each. Go and do 3 months. Do 3 months in that place, like the little town in Italy. That was our taste of what it was like living as a local person somewhere else.
Gateway drug.
And the gateway drug, right? Whether it's do a Boundless Life cohort, which is for families, whether it's come to Syros and come and meet me in my community, right? I'm known as the organizer of events. There's always something happening, whether we're heading out to the farm with the family or doing a barbecue. Just give yourself a taste of what it is like, and know that when you do that, who you thought you were starts dropping away, and be prepared for that. Who you thought you were, who you thought you had to be, and then you find what the truth is for yourself, like who you really are. And honestly, that to me has been the biggest win, that us as a family have just come back to full simplicity of like, we're a family unit, this is home, and this is the greatest gift that we could ever have. And so seek that. As you said, don't do it because you're trying to get away from tax. Don't do it because you're trying to get away from politics, or don't do it because you're trying to get away from something. See what is the opportunity for you, what is possible for you, and just with that little inspiration, just give it a go. Like,
Yeah.
You can always go back at worst.
And when you say
probably won't.
you probably won't. I personally, people always say, do you miss Australia? And I said, not even for a second since I've left. I haven't looked on realestate.com once, which is always a sign of an Australian who's ready to come home. I have not looked. I have not even thought about it. I do not miss it even for a second. But I hope you guys listening did not miss what just happened there. One thing that's grown in me since I've left is a sense of spirituality. I wouldn't say religion or Christianity, but when I've sort of stepped back and had this opportunity to slow down and connect more with life and the rhythms of life and reflect on my life, I've started to notice some really interesting consequences, and I'm sort of delving into that side of my life more. And I'm believing less and less in coincidence and more in there's a guiding something. And I believe that some people who are listening to this are hearing this because they were meant to hear this. But I want you to not miss that Janine just opened a couple of doors there for you and invited you through them, right? One was to join that community, which was Boundless Life. And the other one was to join her community and actually come to Syros and see them. Like, I know Janine and her husband a little now because we've had a few calls together. And I know that invite is actually sincere. And everybody that's come from Australia to Cyprus and hit me up on Instagram and said, hey, Adam, I'm in Cyprus. Can I have a coffee? I've said yes to 100% of them, because we both know, Janine knows and I know, that somebody who's willing to do that and come all that way is serious about change. And so I think we're both the same in that way. The biggest thing here, guys, is that if you are like Janine and I, who for your whole life you've been in accumulation mode in Australia, go to the seminars, read the books, buy the investment properties, offset your mortgage, pay them down, all the stuff that's just drilled into the Aussie wealth creator mind. One of the hardest things to do is spend money on things like this, which is to book the cost of going to Syros or it's not free. You've got to pay for the flights. You've got to book accommodation. It's going to cost you some money. But this is an investment, and we're not selling you anything here. We're not selling you anything. I'm selling an airline ticket for the airlines. I'm just trying to encourage you to start investing in you, because no joy will come until you start opening yourself and giving yourself permission to grow and to invest in your happiness. And so one of the things I'm getting a lot better at now is spending money. I've always been good at growing money and investing money, but learning to spend it well is also part of it. So really, if this is calling you, do something about this. Have that conversation with your husband or your wife. Look in the calendar before today ends and find a window where you could do that, and send Janine a text or send me a text and say, hey, we're thinking about being here at this time. Do you want to have a coffee while we're there? I've had so many coffees and dinners with Aussies that have come through Cyprus since the pod. It's been awesome. Like the conversations, and you wouldn't believe the quality of people. And I'm sure you're the same, Janine, just the quality of individuals that explore this way of life after having kind of fully explored the Australian Western consumerist wealth creation life, Is there anything else you wanted to add, Janine, before we wind this one up? I've so enjoyed talking to you. I could probably talk for a while longer, but is there anything else you wanted to say, or any messages you wanted to impart, calls for people?
Well, I'd love to mirror just what you said then, that, we get to follow that inner voice, that tiny little inner voice that says, what if actually there was something different for me? And that's when I followed that inner voice and moved to Italy for the first time and ended up living on Syros. Like, I didn't know where it was going to go. I didn't have to have it mapped out. I just needed to listen to that inner voice and take that as my guiding light. And from there, everything else works out. I guarantee. Not always easy, but it will always work out.
Yeah. I've loved watching your journey. I love the photos you put up. I love the little clips of seeing your kids walking through the back streets of Syros at night. And you'll put a comment there about how safe they are and how happy they are. And I think for a lot of Aussies watching this, the thought of having safe, happy children, low stressed parents, engaged and connected with nature, massively discounted tax bills, better quality of food, access to good health care, low stress, less time in cars. There's a lot to be said for exploring a different alternative than buy a house, then buy another house, then buy another house, borrow millions of dollars, spend decades paying it all off while you get old. It's insanity when I look back on it now. And, I encourage people to explore a different path. Janine, it's been an absolute pleasure to connect with you.
Thanks.
If you want to connect with Janine, guys, please do. I am Janine Howard on Instagram. Follow her. She's inspiring. She has some services and things that she does to help, particularly women, I think, isn't it? Empress, you've got some programs. So if you're interested in learning and connecting, invest in those programs. Get close to Janine. If she sounds like your person, then, work with her. Sign up for whatever she has, because it's going to help you develop a relationship. And the great thing about leaders like Janine is that she has curated a bunch of women that this vibes with. And this is the fast track into that bunch of women. And once you're in that community, all those women have got husbands, boyfriends, your husband or boyfriend will make friends with their husband or boyfriend, and you got a whole new community waiting. But what's missing is you giving yourself permission to go down that path. So Janine, thank you once again. Really appreciate you, and keep sharing on Instagram. It's reaching a lot of people, me included, and you're helping people live longer and happier lives. So thanks for everything you do.
Thanks, Adam. Really appreciate that, and we'll have to see you on Syros soon.
I will come. No, I absolutely will come. I really want to hang out with you guys in person, so it'll happen.
Sounds good.
Cheers.
Thanks so much. Bye.
Hey there, I hope you enjoyed that episode of Unemployable. If you'd like to watch another episode, just click there.